Hey everyone, welcome back to Talk Tickers. We're going to be taking a deep dive into Hecla Mining's Q4 2024 earnings call.
Always an exciting one.
Yeah, Hecla's always got something going on.
Yeah, lots to unpack for sure.
So right off the bat, big picture. Hecla ended the year with a bang, over $900 million in revenue.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty impressive, right? And it wasn't just higher metal prices that helped them out. I mean, that definitely played a role.
Of course.
But their mines, they all performed well across the board, which is always a good sign.
Absolutely. I mean, that kind of diversification is crucial in the mining industry. It means they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Like a diversified investment portfolio. But for mines, so let's zoom in a little and talk about their individual mines, starting with Greens Creek up in Alaska. It's been a real workhorse for them, churning out 8 to 9 million ounces of silver every year for over 30 years.
Yeah, that's the kind of consistency that makes investors happy.
For sure. And they're planning to keep Greens Creek going strong. They're working on expanding the tailings facility, which is where they store the waste from the mining process.
Right. Gotta have somewhere to put that stuff.
Yeah, and this expansion will allow Greens Creek to operate smoothly all the way to 2040.
They really are playing the long game.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on to Lucky Friday in Idaho. This one had a banner year in 2024, record zinc production, and their highest silver and lead production in over 2 decades.
And let's not forget about their safety record. They maintained an excellent record despite the challenges they faced, which is really impressive considering that fire they had back in 2023.
Yeah, they bounced back from that incredibly well. So what's behind this success at Lucky Friday, and is it sustainable?
Well, for one thing, they've been hitting some high-grade ore, which always helps boost production. But they've also made some smart investments in infrastructure upgrades, like their new surface cooling system, which is going to be essential for maintaining production as they go deeper.
Makes sense. So they're not just relying on luck, they're putting in the work too.
Exactly. Now, as for sustainability, they've got about 17 years worth of reserves left. So that's a decent runway. But like any underground mine, Lucky Friday's long-term success hinges on smart investments and planning.
Gotcha. Now let's shift gears and head north to the Yukon territory where Hecla is developing Kino Hill. This one's a bit of a gamble, isn't it?
It is. Kino Hill definitely has the potential to be a huge growth driver for Hecla, but it's not without its challenges.
Right. They're going with a two-phase strategy. First, they're aiming to hit a throughput of 440 tons per day. Once they achieve that, they'll ramp up to 600 tons per day.
And that 600-ton mark, that's the key to profitability for this mine, because it's a remote operation, high fixed costs just to keep the lights on, so scaling up is crucial.
Yeah, and it hasn't been smooth sailing. They've been dealing with permitting delays, and power constraints have been a real headache.
Yeah, those are two of the biggest hurdles they face up there. But there is a glimmer of hope. The Yukon government recently committed to streamlining permitting processes and providing more support for established miners like Hecla.
That's good news.
It is, but we'll have to wait and see how quickly those changes actually translate into progress on the ground.
Fingers crossed. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about Casa Berardi in Quebec. It seems like they're going through some changes there too.
Definitely. They're transitioning to surface-only mining for now, which is a smart move in the short term because it'll help boost cash flow. Surface mining generally has a lower stripping ratio, which basically means they're moving less waste rock to get to the good stuff.
Ah, so it's more efficient?
Exactly. However, there is a catch. They're facing a 5-year gap before they can start the next phase of development at Casa Berardi.
Oh, it's not ideal.
And bridging that gap is going to require some serious capital investment. So Hecla's doing what any smart company would do. They're evaluating their options, what they call strategic alternatives for Casa Berardi.
So what does that mean exactly in plain English?
Well, it means they're looking at everything, including potentially selling the mine or finding a partner for a joint venture. Basically, they're not afraid to make tough choices, even if it means parting ways with assets that don't fit into their long-term strategy.
Makes sense. So what does this tell us about their priorities? And what are the potential outcomes for Casa Berardi?
Well, this strategic review really shows their focus on maximizing shareholder value. They're not just hanging on to assets for sentimental reasons. They're willing to make tough choices if it benefits the company and its investors. As for Casa Berardi, who knows? They might find a buyer willing to pay a premium for the mine's potential. Or they could enter into a joint venture sharing the costs and risks with a partner. Of course, they could also just keep it and develop it themselves. But if they go that route, they'll need to reassess their mine plan and commit some serious capital.
It's a real cliffhanger. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But before we get too far ahead, let's zoom back out and look at Hecla's overall financial performance and strategy this past year. They've made some pretty bold moves, and I think it's worth unpacking what those moves tell us about their outlook for the future.
Absolutely. Hecla has been laser focused on their finances. They're all about generating free cash flows, strengthening their balance sheet, and investing in future growth.
Yeah, and we touched on their decision to eliminate the silver-linked dividend, which was a bit of a surprise for some folks. So let's dig a little deeper into the reasoning behind that move.
It's all about prioritizing long-term growth over short-term shareholder payouts. Basically, they're saying, we believe we can generate higher returns by reinvesting these funds into our own projects rather than paying them out as dividends. It's a bet on themselves and their ability to create value.
And their 2024 performance seems to back up that confidence. Greens Creek and Lucky Friday together generated a whopping $228 million in free cash flow.
That's incredible. It just goes to show the strength of their core assets.
Right. And on top of that, they significantly reduced their net leverage ratio from 2.7 to 1.6.
That's a huge improvement in their financial health. A strong balance sheet gives them more flexibility to seize growth opportunities and weather any storms that might come their way in the volatile world of mining.
So for someone who maybe isn't following Hecla super closely, what would you say is the key takeaway from all of this?
I'd say Hecla is undergoing a transformation. They're shifting from a purely silver focus to a more balanced approach that includes gold and base metals. And they're all about financial discipline and betting big on internal growth over immediate shareholder payouts. These are bold moves that suggest they're pretty confident about the future.
I agree. Okay, now for the part of the show our listeners always love our This Is Not Financial Advice segment. But remember, folks, what we're about to discuss is purely hypothetical and for entertainment purposes only.
Right, this is not investment advice. Always do your own research before making any decisions.
Okay, so I've been thinking, what if Hecla went for a really bold move and decided to acquire another company? No, this is just me spitballing here, but hear me out. What if they went after?
Wait, hold on. Before you drop that bombshell, it's worth noting that Hecla's management team has hinted that they're open to strategic acquisitions if the right opportunity comes along. So you're not totally off base with that line of thinking.
Exactly. It's all hypothetical,
Yeah.
just for fun. But imagine this. What if Hecla set their sights on acquiring...
Okay, you got me hooked. Spill the beans. Who are you thinking of?
All right, get ready for this.
Yeah.
What if Hecla went after...
Whoa. Hold that thought. You should have to wait till part 2 to find out. We'll be back soon to reveal all and wrap up our analysis of Hecla Mining. Stay tuned. Okay, you left us hanging. Don't keep us in suspense any longer. What company could Hecla potentially acquire?
All right. I won't keep you waiting.
Yeah.
What if Hecla made a play for core mining?
Core mining. Wow, that's a bold move. It would definitely shake things up in the silver mining industry.
Right. Think about it. Coeur's got a strong portfolio of North American assets, including the Rochester mine in Nevada, which is a major silver producer. Plus, they own the Kensington gold mine in Alaska, so that would give Hecla some nice diversification.
I see what you're getting at. It would definitely fit with Hecla's focus on North American silver production. But wouldn't acquiring Coeur be a huge undertaking? They're a pretty big company.
True, it would be a major acquisition. But Hecla's not afraid of making big moves. Remember back in 1989 when they acquired Greens Creek? That was a game changer for them. And with their strong financial position and the decision to reinvest those dividend funds, they've got the resources to pull off a significant acquisition.
Okay, I'm following you. But what would be the main reason for such a move? What would Hecla gain by acquiring Coeur?
Scale. In a nutshell, combining their operations would make Hecla a silver mining powerhouse. They'd have a dominant position in North America, a massive reserve base, and a diversified portfolio of assets.
I see your point. A merger of that size could create some serious economies of scale, potentially leading to lower operating costs and a boost in profitability. Plus, they could leverage their combined expertise to optimize operations and explore new growth opportunities.
Exactly. It would be a power play that would solidify their position as a leader in the silver mining industry. Of course, it wouldn't be easy. Integrating two large companies is always a challenge. They'd have to deal with regulatory hurdles and negotiate a price that works for both sides.
All good points. And we can't forget about the potential impact on Hecla's balance sheet. A major acquisition like this would probably increase their debt levels, which could limit their flexibility down the road.
True, but remember, they've been aggressively paying down debt, and they're in a strong financial position right now. They could handle taking on some debt, especially if it's for a strategic acquisition that they believe will generate significant long-term value.
Okay, I'm starting to see the potential here.
Yeah.
But let's be realistic. There are risks involved.
Absolutely. There are always risks with any investment. But I think the potential rewards of a merger like this could outweigh the risks.
It's definitely a thought-provoking idea. It'll be interesting to see if Hecla's management team is willing to make such a bold move. And just to be clear with our listeners, this is all hypothetical.
Exactly. Just
Okay.
speculation.
Yeah,
But it's fun to think about the possibilities, right?
keeps things interesting. Okay, let's move on from our what-if scenario and get back to reality. What are some other key takeaways from Hecla's Q4 earnings call that our listeners should keep in mind?
For me, it's their commitment to financial discipline and strategic growth. They're all about investing in their own projects, but they're also keeping an eye out for smart acquisitions that align with their long-term vision.
Mhm.
And with their focus on North American silver production, they're in a good position to benefit from the growing demand for silver and green technologies and renewable energy.
Right. And they're not afraid to make tough decisions like cutting the dividend and exploring strategic alternatives for Casa Berardi.
They're adapting and evolving, which is essential in the ever-changing world of mining.
So for our listeners who are wondering, should I buy Hecla stock?
Hmm.
What's the final thought you want to leave them with?
Hecla is definitely a company to watch. They've got a solid foundation, a clear strategy, and a management team that's not afraid to make bold moves. The next few years will be crucial as they execute on their growth plans and aim to become a leading silver producer.
Couldn't agree more. But that's all the time we have for part 2 of our deep dive. Don't worry, we'll be back soon with part 3 to wrap up our analysis and share some final thoughts on Hecla's future.
Stay tuned, folks. Welcome back, everyone. We're wrapping up our Hecla Mining deep dive.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground so far, from their record revenue to the strategic moves they're making at Casa Berardi and Kino Hill.
And of course, who could forget our little hypothetical acquisition scenario?
Yeah,
Always fun to think about those possibilities.
definitely. But let's bring things back down to earth and talk about what investors should be watching for in the coming months for Hecla.
Yeah, what are the key things on your radar?
Well, for me, it all comes down to execution. They've laid out some ambitious goals for 2025, increasing production at Kino Hill and Lucky Friday while keeping that steady performance going at Greens Creek.
And of course, there's still that ongoing strategic review of Casa Berardi.
Right, that's a big one. Investors will definitely be watching for updates on that. Will they sell it, find a joint venture partner, or keep it and develop it themselves? Whatever they decide, it's going to have a big impact on their cash flow and future growth.
And let's not forget about those permitting challenges up at Kino Hill.
Oh yeah, that's a crucial piece of the puzzle.
Right.
They need those permits to move forward with their expansion plans.
So permitting is always a bit unpredictable, especially in a place like the Yukon.
Absolutely. It's a waiting game, but investors will want to see Hecla navigate those regulatory hurdles effectively.
So taking everything into account, what's your overall outlook for Hecla? Bullish? Bearish? Or somewhere in between?
I'd say I'm cautiously optimistic. I like their focus on silver, which I think has strong long-term potential, especially with its growing use in green technologies. And I'm a fan of their commitment to financial discipline. They're not afraid to make tough choices. But they're also facing some challenges, those permitting issues at Kino Hill, the uncertainty surrounding Casa Berardi. Their success really hinges on how well they execute their plans and overcome those hurdles.
Makes sense. A company with a lot of potential, but some risks to keep in mind.
It's mining, always a bit of a roller coaster.
That's for sure. Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into Hecla Mining. Anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
Just a reminder to stay informed about Hecla's progress. Keep an eye on these upcoming developments. The next few months will be telling as they work towards becoming a leading silver producer.
Great advice. And as always, folks, this is just our analysis, not financial advice. Do your own research before making any investment decisions.
Always a good reminder.
That's all for today's show. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Hecla Mining.
Until next time, happy investing, everyone.